Hey everybody. So, Miss P, I think we should do our personal intro song. What's the hot
Hit,
sauce? What's the hot sauce? You gonna join me this time?
go ahead.
What's the hot sauce? 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 Hello and welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us today. I am Miss M.
And I'm Miss P.
Welcome. So, this is like our first live show, so this is really exciting. Miss P, are you nervous?
Not at all.
So great. So what are we going to review today?
You want to tell them what movie we're discussing tonight?
Miss P,
Yes.
what are we going to review today?
Let them know. Let them know, Miss.
Okay, well, today we are going to be reviewing Furiosa, a Mad Max Saga. Yes, I think that's exciting. Now, before we get into this, you're going to hear us say quite a few things because this wasn't exactly Miss P's favorite movie, but the thing about reviewing movies is that it's not always going to be your favorite, right? Right? So, with that being said, what do you need to say about our intro before we go over our hot sauce criteria?
Nothing much. So this movie made me a little angry, but we'll get to that.
It made you angry. It made you angry. Okay, y'all. So, for those of you who have joined us before, you know how we work. We have what we call our hot sauce criteria, okay? And our hot sauce criteria, we run it through our list called P&M's movie criticisms, okay? But we also have the hot sauce chart where we rate everything, okay? The best at the top is the Carolina Reaper. This movie has everything, it leaves nothing out. It's absolutely perfect. It's gonna win tons of awards, maybe every reward in every category, right? Beneath that, we have the Ghost Pepper. The Ghost Pepper is a great movie, as really nice. It's just maybe a little something that it was missing to get it to that Carolina Reaper. Beneath the Ghost Pepper, we have the Habanero. It's good. This is a good movie. It's something that kept your attention and you're happy with it, okay? But it's not going to be your favorite. And then beneath the habanero is a jalapeno. It's like meh, just meh, okay? And that's all it is. And like okay, it was okay. Beneath that we have the bell pepper. The bell pepper, it doesn't get worse than the bell pepper. It just doesn't. A complete waste of time. Okay. So with that being said, Miss P, how do you rate Furiosa, a Mad Max Saga, directed by George Miller, by the way, with your wonderful cast? We have Chris Hemsworth in our cast, Elsa Pataki, Tom Burke. Let's not forget, we have Charlie Fraser, Sean Mills, Alia Brown, and Anya Taylor-Joy, and Lucky Hume. Hopefully I said his name correctly. Nathan Jones, Jacob Tamori, Josh Hellman, and Angus Sampson. So, anyways, Miss P, how do you rate Furiosa Mad Max Saga?
Giving it a bell pepper. Straight up horrible bell pepper.
Miss P gives the bell pepper. Okay.
Popcorn. I want my money back. Popcorn.
Okay, y'all. Okay. So, with that being said, with that being said, let's talk about me. Okay, I do not rate it a bell pepper. Okay, I'm not gonna give it a bell pepper. I don't think it was like, yo, give me my money back. But I will rate it a jalapeno. But there are some elements in there that make me wanna it makes me want to give it a almost I'm like half I'm half jalapeno and half habanero.
Okay,
Yeah.
I would like to say then I'm half bell pepper and half jalapeno. So the bad things were bad for me, but the good things were good. So it's 50-50. Bell pepper, jalapeno.
Okay, well, let's talk about it. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're new, thank you for joining us. If you're joining us again, thank you for coming back to join us on our journey. We have the P&M's movie criticisms criteria to run this through. We gotta talk about why we rated it, why we did. So now we have 9 things that we rate this through, okay? 9. Coming in at 9 is do we like it or love it? Number 8, is it historically accurate? But for fictional movies like this, we'll look at maybe perhaps historical context or history in movies. 7, did it strike my emotions? 6, did it keep my attention? 5, production elements. 4, directing. 3, quality of acting. 2, sound quality and effects, and number 1, cinematography. So, Miss P, please tell us. I know it's number 9. We're gonna start at number 9. I know. I can feel your energy. Do we like it or love it?
It's under consideration of me disliking it to liking it.
Okay. I liked it, which is why I'm half jalapeno, half habanero. I like it. There's some things about it, but we'll talk about that. And number 8, so this is where we talk about maybe history, but in this case, let's talk about the history of the Mad Max Saga. Okay, so historically wise, you know what, Miss P, I think you're a bigger fan of the Mad Max Saga. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Okay, so in the original franchise, you have Mad Max, which was my absolute 100% favorite. And then after you have Mad Max, you have Mad Max 2. So Mad Max came out in 1979. Mad
Mm-hmm.
Max 2 came out in 1981. And then you have Mad Max Beyond the Thunderdome that came out in 1985. Then we skip a whole lot of time. And we come out with Mad Max Fury Road 2015. Then we come out almost 10 years later with another thing, but it's more like a spin-off. So it's Furiosa, a Mad Max Saga, and that was released in 2024.
Mm-hmm.
Mel Gibson was the original. He was the original Mad Max, okay, in the first 3 films.
Mm-hmm.
Tom Hardy was the Mad Max in the Mad Max Fury Road in 2015. Um, there was just a glimmer of him, which was his stunt double in the Furiosa Mad Max Saga.
Yeah, they showed him for like a hot 5 seconds. And you said this story's about Furiosa. Sorry, Mad Max fans. This is all Furiosa. Um, so so that's a little bit about the history here. Let's talk a little bit more about what people didn't really like about Mad Max. I mean, about Furiosa, a Mad Max Saga, and how it fits into the franchise of, well, Mad Max. So I started rewatching the series just like with Mel Gibson, 1979, just a few months ago. I was like, I feel like I want to go back and watch these movies. But Miss P, she has a thorn in her side. Okay, Miss P, please tell us how people received this film.
This film was a box office flop. Box office flop. The reason being is they waited 10 years. So the original people that played Furiosa, and Tom Hardy. So basically they aged out of it because they waited 10 years to do the sequel to Fury Road. Um, so the original people that played in Fury Road, which was Charlize Theron and Tom Hardy, they aged up, so they couldn't play, younger versions of themselves. Maybe if they did CGI or something like that, but this movie they had a lot of, okay, so if we're going to go and look at it, box office flop. The movie was so long. It was 2 hours and like 30 minutes, 28 minutes maybe, 187 minutes total, which is like
Hmm.
2 hours and like almost 30 minutes.
And the
It was
budget,
very, very long.
it
It was
was
super
long.
long.
And the budget was $168 million, right?
Hmm.
And box office $174.3 million. So it made its money back, but there really there's not really much of a profit at all.
Box office flop.
Yeah, so there's a lot of things that, yeah, they were complaining about that. Because they really like Charlize Theron as Furiosa. They really did. And you really like Tom Hardy. And the very fact that they had these favorites that aged out. That didn't sit well with everybody. And of course, when you have fans, your fans don't want to wait 10 years for another movie in the franchise. Fans will be patient for about 2 years, maybe even three, hey, maybe even four. But beyond that, fans start to get really, really upset, and so that's unfortunate. That's unfortunate. Do you have anything else you want to add, Miss P, about how people received Furiosa, Mad Max Saga?
A lot of people said it was too long. It was just too long.
I know, yeah, it was long. It definitely was long. So all right, let's go ahead and move up our list to number 7. Did it strike my emotions? Miss P, did it strike your emotion?
Yes, it struck my emotions, but it also made me angry because it was so long. Um, excuse me. Chris Hemsworth talked so much during the whole movie that I was just like, you got to be kidding. He's talking again and he's talking again. And we wait a little bit more and he's talking again. This should have just been Chris Hemsworth and others. He talked so much that it was annoying.
So, all right, so I like to take notes while I'm watching movies. It is an hour. It's about 1 hour, about 56 minutes roughly to an hour that we have Chris Hemsworth's character that he portrays, Dementis. Okay, so we're seeing a lot of Dementis here. So what you have is there's a lot of Dementis in the beginning, and I find this character very interesting. Dementis, I find him extremely interesting, actually. And to say the least, it did strike my emotions, okay? As Miss P said, she didn't like it, and she thought there was a lot of Dementis going on. And, I suppose, the director's vision was to really give, a little bit of a backstory of Furiosa, how she got there. So you have 1 hour of that in the film. And so, I mean, I liked Dementis. I like Dementis. I think that I call her the little actress. I think it's Lila Brown. And so Lila Brown, our little actress here that plays our little Furiosa, I thought she did great. But I'm going to talk more about that for number 3. Her combination with Dementis, I think, is really good. I think it's a good combination. I think they did a lot of Dementis here because when it comes to who's portraying him, Chris Hemsworth, that's your biggest Hollywood name. So in this case, what they were doing in this hour, because you don't have Anya, you don't have Anya Taylor-Joy here. So I think they're doing production value here. It's what the producers are going for. They're going for production value. They're giving you their premier face, their principal actor. And your principal actor here is, well, Chris Hemsworth, who portrays Dementis. And I think that's what happened here. I think that's why we have so much of the Mentis here is to help this our little actress along.
But she didn't need help. She carried the parts that we saw her in, she carried it herself. She didn't necessarily need him to carry anything because the okay, so right now we are on number 7. Did it strike my emotions? So I'm going to keep it at that. Yes, and it made me angry. But number 6, this is almost the same thing, but a little bit different. Did it keep my attention? Did it keep your attention?
Oh yeah, I mean, our little actress here, Miss Alila, I think she did a great job. She didn't need the help of Dementis. All right, or rather, a little actress here, Lila Brown, portraying little Furiosa. She didn't need Dementis to help her along. She didn't need Chris to help her. She really didn't. I liked her. I like her looks. Her looks of defiance, her grit. Oh my goodness. So she really didn't. It's just what it is, just is what it is. I'm just saying what was possibly happening here. They weren't sure if this little actress and her portrayal of little Furiosa was going to really just, strike the audience. Okay. I think that's why. That's just me thinking about it from the standpoint of perhaps the filmmakers. Yeah. So Miss P, I can hear the emotions in your voice. She does not like it. I mean, but it did keep my attention because for number six, it did keep my attention because there's a lot of crazy things going on that keep my attention. So for example, you remember when a little Furiosa is basically with Dementis, and Dementis he's negotiating, and she's not talking, right? She doesn't want to talk. And then what is his name? Do you remember the name of the guy with the white hair with the weird mask on and everything? He was like the breathing mask, but
So basically, excuse us while
Immortal
we
Joe,
have a moment. But I forget what his name is.
Immortal,
There we go. Yeah,
Immortal.
Immortal Joe. And he was white with white hair. And he had the breathing apparatus wrapped around his back and his face. Yes. And his son had one too.
Yeah, yeah, they were talking about him, but it says Immortan Joe. Yeah, so he wants her, right? He wants her. And Dementus is like, well, she doesn't talk, okay? She doesn't talk. But then Dementus is like, I want her. She's clean, she's untouched. He wants her. He wants a healthy female. And then he says, is he your father? And she begins talking. No, he isn't my father. He murdered my mother. And she leaves Dementus to go with the Martin Joe. And then they take her to this place where there's all these females who are dressed in white, right? There might be some spoiler alerts, by the way. There are all these females dressed in white, and they're wearing chastity belts. You remember that part?
Mm-hmm.
So it's very interesting. So I would have to say, I'll talk more about this with production elements up top, but I would have to say that the amount of work that went into the makeup and the production design, I think was pretty impressive. What do you think?
I think that the guys that were looking for Valhalla and all that stuff, their makeup was nice. Their whole thing was nice. The guy that didn't have an eye,
Oh goodness.
um, yeah, his makeup was nice.
Ugh.
The prosthetic that they did on Chris Hemsworth, his nose and his chin and his forehead,
Hmm.
those are really good. His hair, that was really good.
His
Um,
hair, just to put that in there, then please continue, Miss P, after I say this. They placed those hair follicles on piece by piece every time he sat in a chair for his beard. That's dedication.
that probably took over 8 hours or so to do because he had a big beard.
It's a really big beard that he had. A really, really big beard. Yeah.
But
So, uh-huh.
like there was the gory parts were gory. Um, so spoiler alert, when girl was hanging, like closer towards the end of the movie, when she was hanging, she had already got her arm crushed in between the car and the monster truck, and he held her arm, the arm that was already injured, and she cut it off to escape. Yeah. Things like that is gonna always hold your attention.
I like the character Furiosa. I do. I really, really do like it a lot. It did keep my attention. That they had that utopia there. A little piece, because little Furiosa, or Furiosa period, she comes from a little utopia. It's green, it's lush, and there are very peaceful people there because they have everything that they need. And so Furiosa, she the movie starts off with her and her sister collecting fruit, okay?
A peach, to be exact.
Yeah, a nice, beautiful, ripe, delicious peach. It lacks nothing, this peach, despite the fact that there is nothing left. It's a wasteland. And Furiosa, she has grabbed her peach, but she wants more, right? She wants more. And her little sister's like, come on, let's go, come on, let's go. Furiosa doesn't listen. She just has to climb up the tree and get that other peach. And she does, and she gets it. But when she does, she sees some people. And now that I think about it, those people from those from the outside, they had made it inside their sanctuary of nature that was left unscathed by so Furiosa's like, she takes it. She should have went to get the adults because she can't be no more than I would say no more than 8, 9, no more than 9, 10 years old. And she goes and she starts to cut the gas lines on their bikes, and she's grabbed, and then they take off with her because as a healthy female who will grow up into a woman, she is a commodity. So they grab her and they're off, and she stabs him, runs. They take out their little whip, get her. She blows her whistle. Her people come running. Her little sister stands atop the mountain to guide her mother. They took Furiosa. They went that way. And they point. She doesn't say they went that way. She just points. Anyways, this is how the movie begins, and that in itself, it kept my attention. And seeing the pursuit of the mother after her child, that really kept my attention. I mean, that mother, she was brazen, bold, brave, just, and a really good warrior. She's a good shot, a good hit. That's a warrior right there. She was going to get her baby back, and she did. She got her baby back. Seeing that mother get her child and the mother make her sacrifice was very interesting to me. I really enjoyed that part of the movie.
I
Yeah,
already told you the parts that I liked because, she was
yeah,
hanging the gourd. Like it's more or less like when they got all juiced up on that stuff that they sprayed in their face
yeah,
and
yeah.
they would just fall off of stuff and basically kill themselves to do it. And I was like, "Whoa, hold on."
Yeah, but I'm talking about the mother in pursuit of her child. That part.
Well, here's the thing. The mother literally told her to go and leave. She didn't listen. She got her mother killed. She got her mother killed because she did not listen. The mom said, sweetheart, go. Follow the stars for 3 days. Hide yourself. Go back home. Never did it.
Well, that's the thing about little Furiosa. She doesn't listen. She's a hard-headed girl. You know, her sister said, come on, let's go. We got enough food. I mean, and she had enough food because they live in a little paradise that's tucked away and hidden in the wastelands. So, she could have went back and she could have went and got the adults, and they would have been able, with their fighting skill, they would have been able to just get rid of all of them. But, she didn't. She's hard-headed. And even when she was captured and her mother got her back and she said go to sacrifice herself, she didn't listen. Part of me thinks about it as this is a little paradise, and she in a little ways that little Furiosa was a little greedy. She was greedy. She could have, when you live in that wastelands and you have trees in abundance, all of them are bearing fruit, it's unnecessary to try to get the last peach at on that limb at that tree at the top. It's unnecessary, okay? So little Furiosa was being greedy, okay?
I don't feel that way. I think what she was doing is because her sister was there. I think she wasn't trying to necessarily share her peach. She was like, I'm going to get you your own. So
Maybe.
I think that's why she was like, here, I have my peach so you can have your peach. I don't want to share my stuff. So basically, she was trying to get her sister her own peach so she wouldn't have to share.
But be real with you, they have plenty of peach trees though.
But here's the thing, when you're little and you have a sister or a brother and you don't want to share, be like, no, I want my own. Here's your own.
Exactly. But she could have gotten her own peach back at home because they had plenty. It's the people in the outside that little utopia that don't have plenty. She could have, little sis was all right. Little sis was like, oh, let's go. Little sis had a bad feeling. Little sis, that little peach wasn't that important. Little sis wanted to go home.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, I think this is a lesson. Children do make mistakes, and sometimes those mistakes can lead to, in this case, in a movie, okay, can lead to being abducted and the murder of your mother. Okay, she didn't listen, and she didn't get, and after that, she had a pretty rough life, a very
Hmm.
rough life you know. But her mother trained her very well, extremely well, and she always used those lessons that her mother taught her. Despite the fact little Furiosa just had a very hard head, very obstinate, that one. So,
Number 5, production elements. Yep, we were on 6. Did it keep my attention? Now we're on 5, production elements.
yeah, I'm just saying, yeah.
So what did you think?
The production element, well, they definitely used their budget. They definitely used their budget to the fullest. You don't get any better than what they did. When you're talking about production value, I mean, this just it must have been hot out there. I know. I mean, the hair, the makeup, everything. I would say very, very, very well used. I will say that when we talk about production elements, we also need to talk a little bit about the actors and a little bit what people liked and what people didn't like. If it wasn't for though the makeup and the hair and the costumes and the overall design of the production design elements and also the visual effects, I wonder how much money they spent on visual effects alone. This movie wouldn't be what it is, at least to me.
Um, so here's what it is. The action sequences were good, but it wasn't the same like they had the action sequences in Fury Road. Fury Road, just hands down, was a better film. And the film's attempt to try to tie in. So at the end of the movie, you see basically Fury Road. You see some clips from Fury Road and how, they try to make it seem like she grew up and, that kind of thing. And Furiosa was, kidnapping all the virgins out of the cell and all that stuff, right? So at the end of the movie, you see all these clips, then they try to merge it together, but it was kind of disjointed, so it didn't work for me. Like, I just think that Fury Road was a better movie. The CGI at times, like the fire and it was just over the top. Because if you had fire burning you would have been burnt to a crisp. It wouldn't have been like everybody else.
Yeah, yeah, I got you. I got you. Okay. All right. Well, let's move on, I suppose. So, production design. We talked about the budget and everything, what it brought in. Good makeup. I think there was pretty good continuity with it and all, too. So, let's go to number 4, directing. What do you think, Miss B? Mr. George Miller.
Hey, honey bunny, let me tell you. Let me tell you. I enjoyed the movie for what it was, but Chris Hemsworth did too much talking. The directing to me would have been, hey, let's balance this out. Let's have the little girl carry it, and if she can't, then I'll just add in Chris where I can, and then make the second part more about him, and then move it along that way. But it just took too long to get to where we needed to go because it was over explained. Like, I don't like movies that don't let me figure it out. I don't like movies to hand me something and be like, you're too slow to understand, so I'm going to tell you everything that you need to know. I don't like that. That's where the directing for me lost continuity. It's like a continuity issue because you waited so long between Fury Road and to do this one, you waited 10 years. So people have forgotten, you know what I'm saying? Unless you're just a really big fan, like I love 80s movies. like action movies. That's just me. So for me, that big gap in between left nothing to my imagine. Like it was too long. Like I had forgotten almost about Fury Road, and then I was like, okay, I'm expecting something, but it's a prequel. We already know how Furiosa, what the grand scheme of the thing is in Fury Road. So why are we doing a prequel now? Why aren't we elevating and going to like Fury Road 2 or The Journey Home or whatever we want to call it instead of doing this?
Gotcha. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a true diehard Mad Max fan here, so this is her standpoint. Now, I like the Mad Max franchise, but Miss P, she loves it. Okay, so this is a but this is from the perspective of a diehard Mad Max franchise fan. Now, this is a person. This is my perspective. I get what Miss P is talking about, all of the exposition and all of the background. I understand what she's talking about. There's 1 hour before Anya Taylor-Joy comes in. And about 1 hour, 12 minutes, there's more revealed about Anya. I'm not gonna say it, I'm trying to not have so many spoilers. And so perhaps I'm thinking, I don't know, we gotta talk to Mr. George Miller a little bit, but I think maybe he was taking us for a ride. I think some films do that. It's just a joyride at the end of the day. A joyride with a little bit of storytelling. Because that's what I felt like this movie was. And as far as we're talking about the directing going going on, I also think Miss P is also talking about the death of the auteur or death of the author. Basically, meaning that you're letting the reader interpret whatever they're reading, or you're letting, in this case, a movie, you're letting your audience interpret what's happening in the movie. You're giving them the pieces of a puzzle and they're putting it together. And the author just is a guide, a facilitator. They're not just giving you all this information to tailor and give you what to think. And I think that's what it is. I think perhaps maybe we needed more of the breadcrumbs so that people in the audience could piece it together, because people like the little bit of guessing. They like a little bit of surprise. They like it. You don't want to make it too hard for the pieces of the puzzle to be connected, but you want to make it hard enough so that there's thrilling, right? So you need that sweet space there, that sweet spot, and it just didn't really hit quite like that. But I think that's perhaps what he's going for. And again, just a joyride. But let's talk about the story structure, the structure of the story here. Our classics of beginning, middle, end. For you, though, Miss P, how did that story structure even go for you?
For me, it was just too much dialogue, too much talking. The story, like, don't tell me that it's raining cats and dogs. I can clearly see it's raining cat. You don't have to go into so much detail. It's just show me what you want me to see. Let me figure it out. Right.
Gotcha.
And so the whole time that I was watching the movie, I was just like, are you kidding me? Why is this man talking so much? Like, shut up. Like, I understand you play Thor, and Thor does the exact same thing, right? But Thor is funny, and he has like an ensemble that it works in that situation, right? But in this
Mm-hmm.
situation, it was just too much. It was like Chris Hemsworth talking, action, a little bit of action, talking, a little bit of action, some kind of drama, and you want to feel bad for it. Okay, so Dementis was not a bad character. Let me put it this way.
No.
Dementis was not a bad character. He wanted to be good in a world full of bad.
Yeah.
But in the society that he was in, was there a chance to be good? No. So you had to, do what you had to do to survive.
Yeah.
So for me, I was like, it almost makes you feel sorry for him, but
Yeah.
he's bad. Not
Yeah.
necessarily because he wants to be bad, but he's bad.
He's very bad. Is nobody's good in that world. Just like where Furiosa comes from. Where Furiosa comes from, what if you make it to their little haven, they're gonna shoot you dead so that you don't tell anybody else about their little utopia, their little slice of heaven left in the wastelands of the world. Okay, in this Mad Max Saga film. So nobody's good, not even the people in the safe haven because they murder anybody who finds it. A murderer is still a murderer. So at the end of the day, no, I totally agree with you. But as far as the story structure, for me, I just wanted to see Furiosa get home. I wanted to see Furiosa make it back home because I was watching the movie earlier with Miss P, right? And her mother says, no matter what, make your way home. And then Miss P in the background is like, make your way home. And so, I'm looking at her through like my app and everything, and I'm like, yeah, Miss P, yeah. So I'm like, okay. And her mother, little Furiosa's mother gives her a seed. And you see her throughout the movie. She takes this seed and she keeps it with her. And she just takes it and she protects that seed. And so it just
But she
really,
puts it in her mouth. Let's go back. She takes it out of her hair and puts it in her mouth.
yes. And then she puts it back in her hair too. Right? You
Mm-hmm.
know, yeah, it goes between her hair and her mouth, the seed. But she keeps that seed, and that seed is a reminder, something that her mother gave her, a promise that her mother gave her. And I just really wanted to see Furiosa make it back home. That's what I wanted to see. For me, that would have completed the story arc. That's for me, it would have made a full circle of the story, but it didn't happen. So I feel like, so what are we doing here? Are we doing a sequel? Is that what we're doing? You know? So that's just how I felt about it. Anyways, George Miller, we like George Miller though we like George Miller, right? Yeah, George Miller, as a director, he's a good guy. He was also one of the writers. Um, he was also producing, George is doing a lot. So for those of you who don't know about George, he did Mad Max Fury Road. Okay. So George did Mad Max Fury Road. He did uh Mad Max. He was actually the writer. He was a writer on Mad Max in 1979. So and then in 1981 for Mad Max 2, The Road Warrior, it says he was a writer but uncredited on IMDb. Where else? And then he did Happy Feet as a producer and Happy Feet 2 as a producer as well. So we know him from that as well. But if we take a look at his work, it's just extensively as a director because he's done a lot as a director, a writer, and a producer. By the way, he's very very busy, very 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 busy guy, and as he was also the director of Happy Feet and Happy Feet 2, and oh babe, Pig in the City. In George, he goes back. He's really an OG in the game because if we look at George, if we take it back to the 80s, like if you take it back, we're talking the Witches of Eastwick. You see that movie with Susan Sarandon? I believe Cher was in there.
Mm-hmm.
That was a good
Jack
movie.
Nicholson.
Jack Nicholson, that's right. So we're taking it back, So in Twilight Zone, the movie in 1983,
He's a big 80s like director, like 80s, early 90s, but more
very much.
80s. Like 80s was his bread and butter. Like he's
That's
still
right.
famous, but he made his big like money in the 80s.
Yes, because he's got now saying that he's a director of Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome that came out in 1985. So
And the
we
second
know
one of Mad Max, yes, was one of the best ones. Two man enter, one man leave.
two men enter, one man leaves. All right. So yeah. So that's George. So we know George, and so as a director, we like George. We really, really like George. I think what possibly could have been happening here is, a lot of movies have been 2 hours and 28 minutes. And I think they're just trying to give the fans what they wanted after 10 years of having to wait.
But
Personally.
see, in waiting, the pacing was slow. It's just the pacing was very slow. In Fury Road, you had boom, 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 boom. Like it was never a dull. It was go, 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 go. So for a person like myself that likes action movies, I like a lot of action. Like I don't like a lot of like dialogue, 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 and then a little bit of action, then more dialogue. Fury Road was action, 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 action. This was slow, slow, slow. Action, action, slow, slow. Like I like, the bad guys never look back in an explosion. Like things
Yeah.
like that. This was, oh my gosh, I threw a bomb. I have to look back and see where it landed type of thing. I don't. It's too slow for me.
Oh, Miss P, you and all that action. So, okay, okay, I got you, I got you. So we know George Miller. We know you. Hey, George, how are you? Hi from Miss M and Miss P. I think they're just trying to cover a lot of ground, and I think that's why we got the runtime of the movie that we did. But anyways, let's go up to number three, quality of acting. We've been talking about this, but let's narrow it down to specific characters. For example, okay, so Miss P has been talking about how the Mentis kept talking, kept talking, kept talking. Okay, but I thought he was interesting. Reasons why? His little teddy bear.
Tell them
Wasn't that
about the teddy bear, Lee.
I thought the teddy bear was cute. The teddy bear is symbolic of his humanity for me because his teddy bear it comes from his children that are no longer with him, right? He doesn't have his babies anymore. This is a parent that lost his children. This man was a father and he lost his babies. And the only thing that's left of his babies is that little teddy bear. So he takes that teddy bear and he straps it to him. And that says a lot about the character of the Mentis to me. It is very nice of him to give the little teddy bear to little Furiosa too. That says something else about his character too. And I just really overall just really, really like him. I really enjoyed the way Chris Hemsworth portrayed him. It's just perhaps so maybe that's what the studio wanted too. Perhaps maybe I'll see if there's a director's cut. George might cut it differently. Cut the film differently, you'll have a different product. And from the length of it, they have enough room to cut that bad boy differently, and also shape up the Mentis a little differently too. So, I get it. And then at the end, the Mentis says to big Furiosa when she's got him down on his knees. He's like, "Is you?" He says, "You, me, we." Like I think he said it like we're saying "you, me, we" and everything. That reminded me of Muhammad Ali's when Muhammad Ali gave a, a graduation speech. Was it at Yale or Harvard? It was one of those two Ivy Leagues. Muhammad Ali gave a poem. It was you mean we. It's the same words. Same little poem, really. But Furiosa's like, no, 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 no. Dementus, we are not the same. You see, I'm Furiosa, you're Dementus the Demented. Okay, don't get us twisted, don't get us confused. And Furiosa, Miss P, can you talk about the character development of Furiosa? Because you talked about that a lot.
Okay. So basically, if we have to go backwards, right? So she basically look at it like this, not to bring religious aspects into everything, but think about it like this. She fell from her paradise
Yeah,
like a fallen angel, right? She fell. Then she had to go through everything. She lost her arm.
her
She
mother.
had to basically, and this movie was kind of sick in the sense of this grown man came and snuck Furiosa out of the locked vault
Of
and
the women.
just to play with the bells that were in her hair.
Hmm.
And you know what she did? She cut her hair off She cut all of her hair off. She cut the bells off, the locks off, and she went and basically hid. And so from that point on, they thought she was a boy. And she hid everything. She hid the fact that she was a woman. She would tie her hair up. She would always wear a big mask so they wouldn't see she couldn't talk, or she would act like she couldn't talk, and they thought she was mute. So the people would take up for her and stuff, and she was allowed to live that life until the her love interest basically was saving her and ripped her mask shield off, and her hair flew, and they found out that she was a woman.
Pretty much, yes. This girl, she has a lot of grit. Um, that's right. So for Furiosa, yeah, she is. You're right. In you make a very you make a very good connection about how she was in a paradise. She disobeyed her parents. She disobeyed. Okay, and her life got harder. Life got harder, right? Her mother dies.
In
With
front of her.
in front of her. And her mother didn't have to. That didn't have to happen. She was disobedient. So now remember the history man, played by George Seftsov. The history man, at one point there's Furiosa goes back and she's like, I need a car. They're like, I don't have a car. Then one guy's actually, you know what, I got something. He's like, isn't it beautiful? They put some wheels on it. They're outfitting the car before they can finish doing what they want. Furiosa has no intentions of them finishing doing what they want because what she wanted is done. So she just speeds off and takes off. And one of the men goes, who's that? Who is she? And the history man goes, the darkest angel. Remember
Mhm.
that? He says the darkest angel. The darkest angel could be none other than a fallen angel, right? So it actually adheres to what you said based on how the history man, who does know how to read the stars, by the way, it does go off of what you said with Furiosa. Are there any other actors here besides Dimensions Little Furiosa do you find interesting?
I mean, there are side characters that were kind of funny, but nothing like, I didn't have a favorite this week. So just probably Dementis and Furiosa, and that's probably it. Because her love interest was bland and boring.
Well, he was not the most memorable, no. The History Man I find to be interesting. I find him to be interesting. He's throughout the story in really, really small part, but he does add some nice details there. He doesn't necessarily push the story forward, but he does add some nice parts in there, like identifying her as the darkest angel. So yeah, overall, not bad. It wasn't bad acting. No, not at all. So I guess that brings us to two, sound quality and effects. What do you think, Miss P?
Um, it was just a lot of CGI for me. Like, that's the effects part. The effects. It was a lot of CGI, like almost too much. Like, because the pacing was so slow, like if the action scenes would have been like back to back to back to back, that would have made the difference. But because it was so much dialogue, and then they'd have like two or three actions and then more dialogue, it broke it down to where the effects were not as effective as they were trying to go for.
I see, I see. I think, that's an easy fix. Just shorten the movie, because, shorten the movie, tighten the story arc. That's an easy fix. Just do another cut. You can just do another cut of the film. That's all you need to do. As far as I'm concerned about the sound quality and effects, um, sound quality, good. Effects, they're good. There's some certain camera shots and everything that I did like. So overall, as long as it doesn't take away from the story, I'm happy. I'm happy as long as it adds to the story, as long as it doesn't distract and take away. I'm pretty happy about it. All right. Number one, ladies and gentlemen, cinematography, Miss P's favorite. Tell us about that cinematography, please.
Oh my goodness. The oases were beautiful. Those were shot specifically well. Like, when I say well, you didn't have to have any dialogue to see the beauty. Like, it was just pristine. It was clean. it took you almost to like what the Garden of Eden would have been like because it was so beautiful. Because if you look at it, if you really look at it, all of them were wearing white with blue, um, like little ropes around them for whatever reason. And it
Add
was
some
really
shape.
nice. Huh?
Add some shape to something that otherwise would be very bland.
Hmm.
But you're right, the way that they were dressed, it was completely different. And it is very Eden-esque. It is. I thought that I did think about the Garden of Eden, I did. And then you see those two little girls grabbing the peaches. That was cute. And then so it does have that Eden feel where then, sin comes. Literally, sin does come in the form of those men that are what do we call them? Like, because they're they're not they when they
Marauders. If you really think about it, they're like marauders.
that's a good yeah, there you go. Because when they come in, they're coming in to destroy. Okay, they're not coming in to add to the paradise. The idea is to take the paradise, steal the paradise. That is the sin, right? So you're taking that sin, the intent to steal, kill, destroy, enters into their Eden. And that is why we see little Furiosa doing that. But I think that's why she does what she does. I think so. But that cinematography, but I agree with you about the cinematography. Is there anything else you want to say about the movie?
The storyline wasn't necessarily trash, but it wasn't tight like it needed to be. Because it had too much going on. Like it wasn't tight. And I don't like stories that aren't tight. Like the storyline kind of went everywhere in every which way. And I like things that are kind of compact and push you along. But this gave too much dialogue, too much like exposition. The grass is green, reasoning. The sky is blue, reasoning. It's just too much of that. Give me my action. Give me what I paid my money for. Give
So
me action.
basically what you're saying is, Mr. George Miller, take us back to the 1980s, please.
Yes. If we're
Take
gonna
us
do a
back.
Mad Max movie, then it needs to be Mad Max esque, not oh, here's my disposition. I disobeyed, so now my life is hard and everyone feels sorry for me because no, you didn't listen. These are the consequences. This is what happened. The story was told in such a way where you want to feel bad for Dementis, you want to feel bad for Furiosa, you want to feel bad for all those people because they're in a dystopia. So it's not like they are happy about it, but they have to live to where they have to live because that old lady was trying to heal her and basically was like, no, 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 stay amongst us with all those dead bodies in there. Stay here and we can make it comfortable for you, you
Yeah,
know?
that was weird. That
So
was
it's basically like this. No, don't do any better. Stay here. Rot away with us in the rotten dead corpse. You see what I'm saying?
yeah.
And it was kind of like she had to get out of that to get better because she made herself a whole new arm. She had the willpower to do it. She had the willpower to cut her own arm off to get away, to escape. So she was killing it. I mean, it wasn't that the movie was bad, it just had too much talking, not enough action.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Well, ladies and gentlemen, you heard it. So that's it. I guess I should give my outro of the film. I would have appreciated a full circle of the story arc. I would have. I would like to see Furiosa get home, but good news, she does like plant the seed. I'm not gonna say how. You gotta watch the movie if you haven't seen it. It's pretty messed up. But a lot of things in that world are messed up. How she plants it? Whoa. How she plants that seed? Whoa. Okay. Uh, yeah. That's all I gotta say about it. Eesh. Eesh. Ugh. Ladies and gentlemen, that ends P&M's movie criticism. We have no more to say about this film. That's it. Uh, If you have any comments, drop them. Tell us what you think about Furiosa, a Mad Max Saga. If you haven't watched it, go take a look at it. Don't shy away from it just because it was considered a flop in the box office. Still, watch it. Form your own opinion. And you want to get a conversation going with us, come and meet us. We would love to talk with you. Join us at pnmmoviecriticisms.com. Until next time, everybody, we're going to catch you next week. I'm Miss M, and I'm out this piece.
I'm Miss P. Bye.
Bye.